Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix. I'm Benji Messer. I use he, him pronouns. Today's service is about resisting fascism, as it happens. And I know, right? I'm very happy to have the choir here with me, and Talise and Carrie and Dawn helping make some music about that. Part of that work is taking care of each other, and we open with a song about that by the great Faya Rose Touré. Take a listen to how it goes once. 1, 2, 3, 4. Feel free to stand, and we will sing together in a moment. My brother. Neighbor. We're going to lift our people. For singing. Please remain standing for our chalice lighting.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you. I'm John LaBarbera. My pronouns are he, they, and I am your worship associate today. Thank you. Thank you. Join me as we recite our covenant and Carolyn Allenby lights our chalice. Thank you. If you are watching remotely and have a chalice with you, please light it with us. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to share our strength in fellowship, thus do we covenant. Please be seated. Thank you, Carolyn. Again, welcome. The Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Phoenix strives to be a spiritual community for our time, one that is theologically diverse, radically inclusive, and justice-centered. Our doors swing wide to embrace all who seek a welcoming place. May our worship today be a source of inspiration, a comfort in challenging times, and a call to action. If you're new here, we are so glad you found us. I do have an announcement. If you have concerns about the threats to healthcare services in Arizona, such as Medicaid access, for yourself or others, there's a group that wants to hear from you. Healthcare Rising AZ, or HCR, needs input to craft a 2026 ballot initiative. To help them out, see Compass or use the QR code at the back table. You can see Brad waving back there. Hi, Brad. Our minister, Reverend Christine Dance, is on sabbatical until the end of July. During her sabbatical, we're hosting many guest preachers, and today we are thrilled that our own Emrys Staton is joining us in the pulpit. Emrys, please open our service.
Good morning, I'm Emrys Staton. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm our pastoral chaplain resource minister for the congregation while Reverend Christine is on her sabbatical. While today's worship theme is resistance to fascism, it's also Mother's Day here in the U.S. and yesterday in Mexico and Central America. I share these words from UU minister Leah O'Neary. On Mother's Day, let us mark how beautiful and complex it can be to be mother and mothered. To those who have mothered, we thank you. To those who rejoice in the work, the role, the presence of mothering and mothers, we celebrate you. To those who are in the thick of parenting children of any age, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss through infertility, abortion, miscarriage, adoption, or running away, we mourn you, with you. To those who have lost their mothers, we grieve with you. To those who have endured abuse at the hands of their mothers, we acknowledge you. To those who experience pain at the marking of this day, we witness you. To those who are single moms, spiritual moms, mentor moms, grandmoms, stepmoms, foster moms, adoptive moms, we need you. And to those who are pregnant with new life, both expecting or surprising, we anticipate with you. May we reflect with gratitude on the wide spectrum of mothering that happens in our lives and in our communities. I now invite anyone who would like to come forward for Together Time.
Good morning, everyone. So Together Time is kind of special because we come closer. Sometimes that means physically sitting closer. It also means leaning in and feeling a little closer. It also means it's a chance for us to remember that it's not just us here in the room, but also folks who are joining us on Zoom. And it's a chance for us to draw closer with them and send them our love. So let's show them a heart. I only have half a heart. Addie, do you have another half for me? There we go. And we get to look up here and see you all on the screen. We love you so much. Thanks for being together with us. Hi. So, it's Mother's Day. We're talking about resistance. I was going to talk to you about Mother Jones. But I was reminded that no one would be surprised by that because I've talked to you about Mother Jones a lot. So if you don't remember my stories about Mother Jones, or you're like, who the heck was she? This is the time to take out your phone and send yourself a nice little text message that says, look up Mother Jones. Okay? Okay. So instead, we're going to talk about something else. We're going to talk about a story that happened just last week. It happened at San Francisco State University. And there was an organization on campus that invited some speakers to come. And these two speakers are known for their hate-filled ideologies. And they planned a presentation on an open field on campus. Actually, I'm going to have you all move that way. Everyone, I don't want you to be in this audience. You don't want to be present for this part. You might have to squish together really close, almost as if you're in tight quarters. And you see, they had built up a big podium and stage for these people to speak at and to speak their ideologies, which was a problem. And people knew it was happening, so they got together a band. I'm going to need some badasses. Let's see. Miss Sandy, would you mind standing near the black box that Benji normally stands by? And Mr. Jonathan, would you mind standing with Sandy? And I think, yeah. They're now in a band, and they represent all the badasses. So I don't know if either of you have ever played an instrument, but any instrument you want to play right now, this is your time to airplay it. Great. So every time the speaker would start speaking, and it might be the first woman got up, and she talked about how trans athletes have no right to play sports, the band would start up.
The congressman got into a taxi, so I hailed a taxi, despite the obvious...
And maybe I should have told you it was a punk band. So the punk movement started, we can say it started way earlier, but we first actually start talking about it in the mid to late 70s. And the punk movement is a movement of resistance. So we see punk resists things really early on, like eugenics, deciding who deserves to have children. We see the punk movement resisting the opulence of the 70s, the disco era, but specifically consumerism and the way that people get stepped on in that consumerism. We see the punk movement speak out against homophobia in the early 70s, before anyone else was. We also see the punks be one of the very first times we see white communities engage in organized mutual aid. Okay. So every time they would speak, the speaker would get up and say things like, women who choose abortion deserve hate and abuse. The band would start up.
...involved, and the colored voices in my head began...
Okay, kiddos, here's something you might not know. There are people in our congregation who are, because once you are, you never go back, punks. And I want to recognize you all, because we're told that our days in our 20s and our teens when we're young are our foolish punk days, but I want you to be proud of it. And I'm not going to call you to raise your hand, but if you want to raise your hand, it would be better if you raised your fist. But there are people in this congregation who had their mohawks, who had Liberty spikes. What else did we have? We had leather jackets. We had cuffs. We had combat boots. How many of you still have your combat boots in your closet? Yeah. We had tactical backpacks. We had patches and pins on everything. Jeans that were so dirty they stood up by themselves. It was a whole aesthetic, right? So let's take a second to all stand up. And you all down in front, cluster close together. And if you're not comfortable getting super close to the person next to you, pretend as if you are close to them, okay? And so now you're on the lawn at San Francisco University, and there is someone over here spewing hateful language. But every time they start to talk, the band starts up. And the people get loud. Get loud. And the people start to move. So you bounce, you stomp, you put your fist in the air, and you get as loud as possible, because when the hate is being yelled, you have to yell louder. And what we saw at San Francisco was that every single time these people started to talk, the band started up. And the people got louder and louder and louder and louder. Good job. And in the end, they stopped talking. And the organizers of the event were so disappointed. They said, you know, it's really upsetting. We feel like these speakers that we invited here with their ideologies and their thought aren't welcome here on campus. And you know what everyone said? Yeah! Take a seat. So, folks, I am proud of you. I was worried that when I told you to get loud, you would do that thing where you were timid and didn't move very much, and I was going to have to lecture you and say, if you aren't willing to stand up here in a safe space, Lord knows you're not going to do it when your voice is needed. But you all stood up, and you all got loud. You know how to do this. And you know that you are drafted into the resistance. And you are living into a beautiful legacy of worker resistance and people's resistance. And it is called a draft, because you do not have a choice. If you want to survive, if you want our black boys in our community to survive, if you want the single moms in our community to survive, if you want the disabled in our community to survive, if you want our trans babies to survive, then you have been drafted. And sometimes it's not going to be music you like, and you're still going to cheer to it, right? Thank you.
Kids Camp 50th anniversary this year. Yes. Well, how do we follow that? Each week, we split our offering between this congregation and an organization that shares our values. For May, our Share the Plate partner is Desert Star Institute for Family Planning. And today we have Dr. Deshawn Taylor and their mom to tell us more about this amazing organization. Please come on up. Come on, Mom, it's Mother's Day. You are invited. You are welcome here on our pulpit today. Yes.
My mom's just gonna stand here and look pretty, I told her. So thank you all for welcoming me. And so since it is Mother's Day, I have my mom, Diana, and I also have my oldest brother, Sherman, accompanying me today. And I am so glad to be able to come and talk to you all today. A couple of years ago, I received an invitation to come, and I sent my board member at the time, who is now Senator Annalise Ortiz, who spoke with you all, and she continues to be a champion of reproductive health rights and justice at the legislature. My pronouns are she, her, and I founded Desert Star Institute for Family Planning, which is the nonprofit who will receive your offering in April of 2017. And I founded this organization after operating my own independent private practice, Desert Star Family Planning, for about 4 years. And I realized that there were some community needs that needed to be addressed through a charitable arm to the work. And so Desert Star Institute was founded. And so through the evolution, my own evolution from a reproductive health to a rights to a justice framework, so did the organizations that I founded evolve. And so Desert Star Institute for Family Planning is a reproductive justice organization. And reproductive justice has 4 main tenets. It includes the right to bodily autonomy, the right to not bear children, the right to bear children, and the right to raise families in safe and sustainable communities. And so that justice lens is what I apply to my practice of medicine and also to my advocacy, and therefore the organization follows. In December of 2023, you guys see what's been up is the logo of the clinic, Desert Star Family Planning. In December of 2023, I sold my privately owned clinic to the nonprofit that I founded to keep essential services available to the community. I personally was struggling to keep the clinic open with all of the back and forth and policy changes related to access to abortion in our state. And this was an opportunity to not have our community lose a clinic, but to maintain services. And so with the acquisition of the clinic, then we were able to continue to provide abortion services, medical and surgical, continue to provide hormone therapy for transgender and non-binary adults, along with all of the other services that we provide. I'm an OBGYN, and so we provide outpatient gynecology services, well-woman care, birth control, and acute female problems are addressed there. And so we have services that are directly caring for people whose bodies have been traumatized in the medical system and whose care is stigmatized and politicized. So we consider ourselves a community-based health justice clinic. We center our services to meet the needs of people who have historically faced barriers to care. And we are a beacon and a safe space for people to receive very intimate care with not only dignity, but excellence. We provide patient assistance programs that help people exercise autonomy over their bodies, even when they don't have adequate resources to pay. This includes our long-term birth control program for uninsured low-income individuals, supplies to our patients seeking gender-affirming care, and assistance for people who cannot completely cover the cost of their abortion care. We provide education and engagement around issues of reproductive health, rights, and justice, and we engage local advocates and lawmakers to advance reproductive justice in Arizona. So that is the short of the work. I invite you all to learn more about us at desertstarfp.org. Please follow us on Instagram at DesertStarFP. We're also on Facebook as Desert Star Institute for Family Planning. And also, if you visit our website, please go ahead and sign up to receive our monthly email newsletter. We'd love to keep you engaged and knowledgeable about what we're doing as an organization, and very important calls to action you receive through there as well. So thank you all so much for having me and Mom here, and my brother. And looking forward to the rest of the service.
Thank you both so much. Thank you, Dr. Taylor. Thank you, Mom. And for all that you give, we are so grateful. Ushers, thank you for your willing hands in helping us pass the plate.
Thank you. Before we go into our joys and sorrows this morning, we have a special video clip to share from Reverend Christine, our minister currently on sabbatical, who wanted to say hello to us from the May 1st march.
Hi, UUCP beloveds. Yes, I still exist. I'm still on sabbatical, but I had to show up for the protest. Was very honored to walk with my fellow clergy here, showing that it's a moral imperative that we fight back and resist. I love you all. I miss you, but not too much, and I'll see you in August. Bye. Hi, UUCP beloveds.
So we're officially halfway through the sabbatical, 2.5 months in, and so we send you our love, Reverend Christine. We recognize that our lives are interconnected. Part of our journey as community is sharing our significant milestones, our joys, and our sorrows. You can put a note in the chat on Zoom if you'd like me to read it out loud. If you want us to read a joy or sorrow next week, you can fill out a small card on the table at the back of the sanctuary. Today, the Perez family shares with us that Nigel is now the Division II state champ for the 300-meter hurdles, specifically set a state sophomore record in the 300 hurdles with a time of 37.66 seconds, taking first place as champion for Division II. And heading to Open State next week for qualifying for nationals. Yeah. The Lifshitz family writes that they're so proud of Dylan for his graduation summa cum laude from Barrett, the Honors College at ASU, and he now is headed to LSU, Louisiana State University, go Tigers, and Shreveport to begin his program on PhD program on May 28th. They grow up so fast. This is joy from Bunny Hodis. On this day, we officially honor mothering. I want to express my joy and gratitude for all those in our UUCP community, elected and volunteers who help UUCP and each other like family. Thank you. Share that. And P.S., I didn't even know this. Happy birthday, Dale. Mary, Natasha, John, and Felix share and ask that our hearts go out to Samantha, John's sister, who is having pain after her spinal surgery. We hope she keeps her faith in healing and community. And we send our love to Samantha and you all supporting her. And Natasha also writes that keeping my mother-in-law in my heart as she just lost her mother this Easter. So you lost. It was John's mother, sorry. Keeping John's mother, Natasha's mother-in-law, and all your family in our heart as we lost her on Easter. Yeah. Kathy Kim shares with us a joy and gratitude today that as the school year ends, we are feeling gratitude for the wonderful support folks at UUCP have given to our partner, Maryland School, faithful tutors who mentor students in the classroom and gardens, generous donations to build the music and outdoor education programs, special meals to appreciate the teachers and the staff who daily rise to the challenge of nurturing children. It fills our hearts with joy to participate in this community. And thank you, Kathy, for leading that amazing ministry of Maryland School for all these years. And one anonymous joy will lift up and a shout out to the Pope who said, new Pope, never again war. Amen to that. And from Zoom, let me check. Happy Mother's Day to all, and especially my mom, Bev Hart. This is from Efia. I am the luckiest person to have you as a mother. And so we'll wrap up our joys and sorrows today with just immense gratitude and beauty for Mother's Day today. So may our joys and sorrows, those named and those held silent in the sanctuaries of our hearts, help us draw closer and care for each other in this community. Today, for a meditation and centering practice, I'd like to lead us through a couple rounds of something called meridian tapping. It's a simple and effective way to calm ourselves, reduce anxiousness and stress. And part of the psychology of this is that our mind, we can get ourselves worked up simply just by thinking, and our thoughts can get us totally anxious and worked up. But it's almost impossible to calm ourselves down by thinking. We need somatic embodied exercises, breathing, meditation, exercise, anything like that can help calm us down. So this is a simple somatic exercise that you can do whenever, in the car, seated, at home, at work, and it just helps your body recenter itself. So you pick 2 fingers. I usually just use my ring and index finger together, and we'll start by tapping on different parts of our face, and I'll guide us through. And it's just a real gentle tapping, and it triggers acupressure points in the vagus nerve, and it helps bring calming. So we start just over your eyebrows and real gentle tapping over your eyebrows. I do it for 1 breath. And then we go to our temples, just to the side of your eyes. And then underneath your eyes, that little bone right there. And then with one hand on your upper lip and below the nose. And then we go down that little dimple between your lower lip and chin. And then right here, just on the upper part of your chest plate. And if you can, with both hands, right under your armpits is another secret spot. This one brings a smile to your face. And then the kind of insides of your hands, where your pinkies are together. And the last spot is the very crown of your head. And we'll do one more round, starting at the top of your eyebrows. And the temples. You can think to yourself, I am letting go of my stress. Under your eyes. Above the upper lip. And below the lip, above the chin. Chest plate. Under the armpits. And on the very top of the head, taking one deep breath while we do this. And let it out. And you can relax your hands. May we continue with our service. Blessed be.
So, often we do a quieter song after the meditation, but anti-fascist anthems, it's going to be a little more rousing. My apologies. One of Martin Luther King Jr.'s last requests was that our next song be recorded and distributed as widely as possible. It was an anthem of the 1968 Poor People's March on Washington, and it was revived in 2018 by William Barber for the current Poor People's Campaign. It has a call and response part in the middle. I'll say, everybody's got a right to live, and you say, to live. Everybody's got a right to love. Everybody's got a right to learn. Yeah, you get it. Okay, here we go. Feel free to stand. Feel free to stay seated if you need a rest. Goes like this. Choir, you should stand. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to live. And before this campaign fails, we'll all go down to jail. Everybody's got a right to live. Hold on. Let me just check. Danny, do we not have lyrics for this one? Okay, sweet. Just double checking. All right, from the top. Hey, you're all ready with your parts. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to dream. Everybody's got a right to love. Everybody's got a right to learn. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right. Well, everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody's got a right to dream. Everybody's got a right to love. Everybody's got a right to learn. Everybody's got a right to live. Everybody, here we go. Please be seated.
Thank you. That was awesome. Maybe I can tell this story better than I can light a match. Let's find out. In the aftermath of World War I, much of Europe saw widespread civil unrest and political strife. In Italy, where my family is from, this manifested itself in the spread of fascism and Benito Mussolini's rise to power. All of my great-grandparents immigrated to the United States from Italy. Most of them came between 1920 and 1926. In 1924, Mussolini abolished all political parties except his own, and for the next 21 years ruled the Italian nation with an iron fist. That was the push that led my ancestors here. The pull, of course, was opportunity, the promise of freedom here in America. Of course, Italian immigrants were not welcome with open arms, much like any others. The disdain from those already here caused many Italians to forego immediate assimilation. Why be part of a club that doesn't even want you as a member? Italians fought for workers' rights all over the Northeast, like during the textile mill strike of 1912 in Massachusetts and the Patterson silk strike of 1913 in New Jersey. My family came a little later, escaped fascism, and worked as laborers, fishmongers, barbers, and bakers, establishing themselves here through much adversity so future generations could have a better life. They kept their traditions and passed them down, while each successive generation became more and more recognizable as, quote, mainstream Americans. Does all of this sound familiar? Yes. Anecdotally, I have found that many Italian Americans today forget this very important part of our history, given their rhetoric and recent voting habits. How this happened is actually quite fascinating and kind of sad, but I don't have time to get into it this morning. Anyway, my point is, people escape fascism to come here, and it just doesn't align with American ideals, so let's do all we can to stop it. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And that offers us a wonderful segue. Our choir anthem today is an Italian folk song that was adopted as an anthem of anti-fascist resistance after World War II. Please enjoy Bella Ciao.
That was awesome. Oh, I first heard Bella Ciao in a language school in Guatemala when I was down there. It was a people's-run language school, and so we would sing that every night. That was awesome. Thank you. So when we think of the working class, what comes to mind? People in factories, trade workers, service workers, farm workers. Maybe there's stereotypes around education or lifestyle. Perhaps the term working class conjures up images of unions and organizing. Is the working class of today similar to that of 100 or 150 years ago? For me, what often comes up when I hear working class, I feel inspiration and gratitude for the struggles and victories that I know I benefit from today. The 8-hour workday, weekend, sick time, overtime, minimum wage, living wage, workers' compensation for injuries, ending child labor, creating fair employment opportunity rules, maternity, paternity leave, paid holiday, and vacation days. A lot of this stuff is workplace related, which makes sense for working class struggles. But working class organizing from around the world has also impacted our lives in much bigger ways, and fighting against fascism and authoritarian political systems. Democracy, as we know it and experience it, as imperfect as it is, has a huge debt of gratitude to pay to working class struggles and activism from all over the world. And while working class typically refers to wage laborers in industrialized areas, I open it up, obviously, to all movements among peasant and agrarian people, enslaved peoples, indigenous peoples, as it's all related and interconnected. So when we look at the authoritarian movements from around the world, it's the working classes that often led the fiercest opposition and paid the steepest prices. With Trump now creating his own brand of fascism, we have a lot to learn from and be inspired by. A couple of years ago, a friend on Facebook put a post up about some cool podcast that had episodes about the Italian resistance movement, the working class movement in resistance to fascism. I looked it up. It was called Working Class Histories, and very soon was making my way through about 100 podcast episodes covering all manner of working class-led struggles and movements from around the world. Some I was familiar with, and some I had never heard of and completely new to me. One of my favorites talked about a major uprising in 1980 in Gwangju, South Korea, against the brutal US-backed military dictatorship. One of the interviewees was an American Peace Corps volunteer who happened to be there and just totally got involved in the movement, defying orders from his superiors. Also in that episode, while interviewing some of the Koreans who participated and survived, one of them said he remembered people singing during their gatherings. And since most everyone was Christian, many of the songs that they sang when they got together on the front lines were hymns that they would all know. The hymn he remembered hearing was "I've Got Peace Like a River," a common hymn that we sing here. I became curious about the ways that religion has been a part of anti-authoritarian and anti-fascist movements. And so as I listened to those episodes, I would take note when something about a church or religion was mentioned. There were stories of the Fiamme Verdi, the Green Flame Brigade, which was loosely a Catholic movement in the Italian Alps that supported partisan fighters. One interview shared the story of how a priest created a youth group that recruited and trained teens because it was a church activity group. They could defy the ban against gatherings of any more than 4 people. In many places, religious communities, mostly women, use their church networks to cook and provide food for people striking or fighting. And there are stories, incredible stories from around Europe of priests who baptized Jews and forged papers so they could more easily escape Nazi and fascist persecution. But when we pull back and look at the reality of what happened in Europe, the church was either absent or resoundingly on the side of the powerful, aligned with the state or the crown or the dictator or the colonizer or whatever ruling force was present, including itself. As an institution, religion, and right now I'm mostly thinking of the Christian religions around the world, and particularly the Catholic Church, the institutions of religion were trying to preserve their own positions of power and privilege while also theologically justifying their own supremacist views. One key piece of how the church navigated the geopolitical world in the 1900s was the panic around Marxism. Many working class movements were inspired by Marxist theory and literature, and as we know, Marx was no fan of religion, organized religion for sure, believing it to be a tool used by the ruling class to oppress the working class, or the proletariat, to use the proper term. So if the Vatican had to choose between supporting fascism or supporting socialism, the choice was easy. But aside from the pragmatic stance of self-preservation, the Catholic institution had for centuries already promoted genocide and colonization, theft, slavery, and just about everything else that was terrible since it became the official religion of the Roman Empire. Why should we expect it to behave any differently now? The majority of Catholic and Protestant clergy wholeheartedly supported the projects of Hitler and Mussolini and other dictators. Early on, Mussolini, an atheist himself, was quick to formalize an alliance with the Catholic Church, creating the Vatican as its own sovereign state as a gift, and making Catholicism the state religion of Italy. Hitler was also personally ambivalent and actually hostile personally towards religion, but recognized the importance of merging Nazism with Christianity. And according to religion writer Adam Joyce, Most German Nazis saw the party as a Christian movement. Dorothee Sölle, the German liberation theologian, often used the term Christo-fascism to describe right-wing Christianity that is seamlessly absorbed into and promotes these right-wing political movements. Joyce and many others are easily and correctly using the term Christo-fascism to describe a long-running trend within right-wing Christianity in the United States even, which Trump is easily tapping into. It is also this conservative American Christianity that has wholeheartedly thrown its support behind genocidal Zionist movements in Israel for the past several decades. One of the historians interviewed in the podcast episodes about the resistance in Italy made an important point when he was looking back and just reflecting on it all. And he said that we often want to think that fascism was an anomaly, that it was an exception, that it came up and it just happened to have the right circumstances and some particularly cruel and evil people. But the reality is that the mindsets of supremacy, whether Italian or German or Spanish or American or whatever, the mindsets and worldviews have been cultivated for a long time, and religion had a big role to play in that. To expect that religion would have taken an anti-fascist moral stance was naive. To this date, the Vatican has never officially denounced fascism or its participation in it. It has denounced Nazism, and no surprise, it has denounced Marxism. One of the popes back then in the 20s in Italy put out an encyclical condemning idolatry of worshiping the state, but that was more of a theological quibble than any real rejection of fascism. So it was mainly the small, localized, breakaway movements from the church that opposed fascism throughout Europe. The Lutheran Confessing Church in Germany, which argued that the Christian allegiance should remain, or the confession, the allegiance should always be to God, not a political party, maintained a presence throughout Hitler's rule, but was ultimately beaten down by its leaders and parishioners who were arrested and conscripted. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a key person who we've quoted here before, was also one to participate in one of the few assassination attempts on Hitler. But even that movement turned out to be more about maintaining the church's independence than really wholeheartedly opposing Nazism or protecting Jews. In Italy and Spain and Portugal, some priests and nuns supported partisan fighters and anti-fascist militants. I imagine that more helped out than we actually know, as that work was largely done secretly and without documentation. Some churches were involved in underground railroads, networks to help people escape persecution, mainly Jews, but many others as well, intellectuals and political organizers who were persecuted, and UUs were part of that work too. But for those stuck in the regimes with no way out and no outside support, it was the organizing of everyday people that posed the only significant resistance. When I asked at the beginning what comes to mind when you hear the term working class, I assume that some of us also think about the ideologies associated with that term, Marxist, socialist, anarchist, and perhaps images of direct action and violence, advocates of a world without countries or borders, a world without organized religion, and what do we make of all that? I think that for more liberal religions like ours, we can and do get behind working class movements, and at least in theory and maybe from a distance, partly because UUs are demographically skewed towards middle and upper middle class. Perhaps our parents came from working class backgrounds, but many of us were able to rise up on the social ladder with more opportunities and education. We're not particularly a rank and file militant bunch, or are we? When I look at what people did to oppose fascism in the past, people that not just led strikes and protests, but also took up arms and set up barricades, formed militias. They carried out kidnappings and assassinations. They fought battles. They took prisoners. They had to kill people. Fighting fascism from within was a form of civil war. So when we say that Trump is a fascist, or that his overall political movement is checking all the boxes of fascism, as we're nervously watching as the usual checks and balances groan under the weight of his impulsive executive authority, are we really ready for escalating resistance? I noticed that as I had been researching all this history, my stomach was twisting and nodding, partly in fear of what Trump might really unleash on us, and partly in grief from all the suffering and loss and the violence that I was learning about from the past. It's one thing to look back and think, holy cow, that was crazy, but it's over now. It's another to think that a new form is reemerging before us, before our eyes, that we might need to provide some kind of, and continue providing, but really amp up a resistance again and face that same kind of suppression. As UUs, I know we are already way ahead of the vast majority of religious groups, both in condemning Trump's harmful policies and continuing to find ways to stand with marginalized groups that are the common targets and the easy targets of fascist power. There are plenty of Christian nationalist and Christo-fascist institutions around us, and plenty more that will simply just not take a stance. We are in the minority when it comes to religions that openly preach, teach, and organize against fascism, both at the institutional level and at the local level. And for this, I anticipate we will continue to be targeted. We represent so many of the things that fascists want to erase, to deport, to disappear, to exile, to imprison, and to silence. Our faith preaches, teaches, and organizes using principles of nonviolence, of love. We may see that get tested in ways we can't yet imagine or predict. And this feels like a dark and a scary place to send our minds and hearts. It might push us to clarify and discern so that our minds and hearts are prepared to stand ground and maintain our commitments to love and nonviolence. So in 50 or 100 years from now, will people be learning about our stories and our struggles? Will our hymns be sung in the streets, inspiring and exciting others? Will our kitchen be used to cook meals to be brought out to wherever it's needed? Will our building be used to shelter people? Will we hold out law enforcement that attempts to enter? Will there be stories of our clergy and leaders out doing courageous public or secretive underground activities? Will we choose to lay low and not bring attention to ourselves strategically to avoid public scrutiny so we can work more effectively that way? Will our youth group become an anti-fascist recruiting and training program? Probably. This congregation has already done most of those things, as with many of our sibling UU communities around the country. Our national organizing bodies are asking these very same questions. Side with Love, the UU College of Social Justice, the Unitarian Universalist Association, our General Assembly, UU The Vote. There's literally a whole page of resources on the UUA website called Protecting Democracy from Fascism. We're literally the polar opposite of the Catholic Church of the 1930s. The feeling of growing fascism is definitely in the air, and Unitarian Universalism is standing up to the test. Let us be inspired and motivated by those who stood up to fascism in all of its forms in the past, the priests and the partisans, the nuns and the youth, the everyday people who simply refused to accept a racist, nationalist, violent world order. May we not forget their bravery and sacrifices. I see them as ancestors, transgenerational mentors and guides. May we ensure their struggles were not in vain as we keep holding the line, arms linked in solidarity with them, to say to the advancing forces of fascism, you shall not pass.
Thank you, Emrys. Amen. So we'll close with a song that Woody Guthrie was singing in 1940. Oh, somebody's phone's going. It's slightly adapted for today. You're welcome to remain standing. The lyrics of the chorus, which I hope you'll sing along with us, are all you fascists bound to lose. It's a very hopeful song. It goes like this. There's a fascist in the White House, caught us by surprise, but people all around the world are getting organized. You're bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. Here's the chorus, here you go. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. There's people in every city marching side by side. Oh, but we're not gonna stop until we break down all your lies. You bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose. All you fascists. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. Our fight seems never ending, but just you wait and see. We'll win this with our hearts in solidarity. You bound to lose, you fascists bound to lose. One more time, everybody now. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. You bound to lose. You fascists bound to lose.
Yes. After service ends, our coffee hour will be in the Johnson Room just across the patio, and noon activities will be listed on the screen behind me. Emrys, please close our service.
Our closing words come from our UUA president, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Benecourt, who wrote this shortly after Trump's inauguration. We must respond with action. I encourage you to reach out to your local communities and support organizations that are long established in the fight for justice and make your voices heard. Together we can build a future where love and justice reign. In these days, I send my love and solidarity to each of you and your families, your communities, your organizing networks, to our faith, our nation, and world. May that love take the form of courage and faithful resistance and renewed commitment today and the days and years to come. Go in peace, go in love, and go in solidarity.